What scam can you still not believe you fell for? My older sisters told me eggs grew on trees. I vehemently disagreed. They made me plant an egg yolk. I came back later to check, and a stem had grown. Later, leaves showed up. I started to believe. I came back again, and they had put plastic Easter eggs filled with candy on the tree. I gave half my night's tip money to a woman who said her car broke down, and she had to go pick her kids up from daycare. I believed her because she was standing in front of a car getting towed. I told someone about it later, and they described her to T and said, "Yeah, that's Kimbo, you just bought her a week's worth of crack." I've met like 6 people since then that she's done the same thing to. I lost $1,500 over a phone scam while running my own store. I had just started out with being a business owner at age 20, and there was a lot I still didn't know, one of them being paying bills. Yeah, I know. Look at this guy, doesn't know how to pay bills, but it was never really taught to me how it works, so I don't know, man. I didn't know exactly. I knew I was behind on some of the utility bills, but wasn't exactly sure by how much. One day, I get a call from National Grid telling me they are sending over an engineer or whatever to cut off our power due to non-payment. Once we were removed, it would take a few days to get power reinstated. I guess this was all to create a sense of urgency, and it worked on me. They required payment through prepaid Visa cards. I knew that if I didn't have power, the store wouldn't be able to operate, so obviously this shook me. I was told to buy the card and give them the number on the card. I was told to call them back. This part still confuses me, because I googled National Grid number and called what showed up, which sent me back to them. So, I did what any sensible person would do. I put a out for lunch sign on front, closed the store and drove to the nearest CVS. All my mental alarms were screaming, "This is weird," but I ignored it due to stress and inexperience. I fell for it. I drove out, bought a card, and called them back to give the number on the back of the card for $500. But that's not all. Another guy from them called, explaining that PR was meeting with the previous guy that I spoke with, saying he was in trouble or whatever because he gave me incorrect information. The amount that was owed was incorrect, and I actually owed $1,000. They would send a check with the $500 I previously gave them, but it would take a few days to arrive. Oh, I know what you're thinking. OP can't be that stupid. No way did he fall for this crap. Yes, I did. I gave them another $1,000. I'm still pissed off. Thanks for reminding me, OP. After I gave them the next $1,000, did I think to call a friend and ask about it, to which they said, "That's obviously a scam," but it was too late. I lost $1,500 for the most expensive life lesson I've ever had. When it comes to business, trust no one. And not be retarded enough to pay $1,500 to the utility company using prepaid Visa cards. There was a bloke on the train I sometimes call Sob Story Dominic. He would get on, loudly announce his name, and tell everyone that he was just out of rehab and needed to get bus fare to go see his girlfriend and their newborn son. Then he would sit and sigh and look sullen until people gave him money. I gave him $10. Next day, same guy, same sob story. I was like, duck that guy. In LEGO Universe, a guy told me he'd show me a cool glitch for 10,000 coins. I was young and stupid. Bastard took the money and ran. That's a cool glitch. Someone tried this on me in RuneScape. He said he'd double any money I gave to him, obviously a scam, but I decided to humor him because I was quitting the game anyway. I gave him 20,000, he gave me back 40,000, and then told me to do a higher amount since I could trust him now. I logged off. This happened to me a while back in Mexico. I could tell right away though that he'd marked me. He follows me around 4 blocks, then comes up, and in really fluent English tells me he needs money for his starving wife and kids who were nowhere to be seen. Well, this guy was chubby as duck, and I wanted to tell him to stop eating all his wife and kids' food. Another time in Mexico, I'm walking down a side street and see for about the third time 4 guys pulling crutches out of a car and strapping on full-size leg and arm casts, getting ready to go to work on the tourists. The one time I was scammed was in South America. I was with a woman I know in the back of a taxi. She's chatting away with the driver, and because his stop is right next to her house at a hospital, I thought she knew him, so I didn't check the change he'd given back to me. Their currency is all different colors and different sizes. From the taxi, I go directly to the store and buy groceries, and at checkout, I put the money down without really looking at it, and the cashier girl tells me I have to use real money. The driver had stuck a bunch of Monopoly money in between some real bills and given it to me. I looked at the money, then the cashier, and couldn't help but to bust out laughing. When I was little, my grandma would take me to the dentist for my regular cleanings. After the fluoride she would tell me, now you're not allowed to have candy for a month because of the fluoride. She would get the dentist to agree with her. I believed this for a couple years, until I mentioned how it's not fun having to wait a month to eat candy because of the dentist to my friends at school. I knew something wasn't right when I realized none knew what I was talking about. I went home and told her I knew the no candy after the dentist wasn't true. Her response was, well, I'm surprised I got away with that for as long as I did. When I was a little kid, my dad drew several circles on a sheet of paper. Then, he would have me roll a quarter down my nose to try to get it to land in certain spots for more points. The goal is that when the quarter lands, you trace the quarter with a pencil, then you roll, trace, roll, trace, etc., until you get a certain number of points. The joke is that the person rolling the quarter ends up with a streak of graphite down their nose and looks like an idiot. I wasn't happy. It was embarrassing and I felt betrayed. A guy I went to high school with scammed a town full of people in the next state over by pretending to be a Food Network chef. He claimed that he was setting up a barbecue in their town with people such as Bobby Flay and Robert Irving in attendance, then proceeded to charge $35 a ticket to the tune of $10,000. The charade fell apart when he did a presentation and people realized he had no clue how to make most of the stuff he was demonstrating. People did a little digging and realized he wasn't a chef and had never been employed by Food Network. The police agreed not to press charges if he gave everyone their money back. Guy at the gas station said he and his cancer-ridden wife broke down a mile up the highway, needed $10 to get them gas for a 30-mile trip to the city. I just got paid, was feeling rich, so I gave it to him. Went to the same gas station 2 days later, and the guy was there again with the same problem. Walked down the tunnel to DC Metro, and approached a ticket machine to get my Metro fare card. Found a well-dressed lady confused by the machine, and not quite a full English speaker. Convinced me to buy her a ticket, as she was to meet her daughter at office downtown. Finally bought her a damn ticket, and then she asked if the ticket was enough to get her back too. Gave her an extra $5 as that's all I had other than large bills, and told her to be sure and have her daughter explain all this to her. Guess what? A few days later I went back to that same Metro spot, and she was in the process of scamming some other dude using the same story. I stood behind them until she played off the, will this get me back? Then busted her right there. She gave me an excellent cussing for someone who didn't know English. I felt like such a chump, ready for any hard luck story. Was desperate for a job, looked at the newspaper ads. It was like 15 years ago, and saw this marketing opening opportunity. I called the number, and the guy I spoke to was really enthusiastic, almost instantly gave me an appointment for what he said was an interview a couple of days later. Of course, when I asked what did the position involved exactly, they replied, we'll explain everything once we meet you. So I get there to find a room full of chairs and a small stage with a cardboard saying, please take a seat. I now think this must be some kind of group interview, as more people are coming and sitting in the half-empty room. 2 guys take the stage, while 2 others in the back closes the doors, then locks the doors. A woman asks why they are locking the doors, and one of the guys says, well, We wanna make sure you get all the information before you make a decision. That sounded pretty weird, and by then I knew I was in some shitty situation. Is this some kind of bad shit religious group? What the hell am I doing here? Then one of the guys on the stage puts a large box on a table and starts the classic, "We are happy to have you here today. In fact, we're really excited because you will be the first in the whole city to make this much cash. You just won't believe it." He opens the box to show a set of knives and says, "We welcome you to Cutco." Now I wanted to get out, but looking at the door, the two guys were standing by it like security guards. Sorry for locking the doors, but this opportunity is so great we can't take any risks. We don't know, one of you may well be a spy. Had to sit through an hour of listening to him talking about his freaking knives and how nice they were. TLDR, ducking Cutco meeting. That dropping my rare item in a certain part of town would dupe it. Little did I know it would drop on the other side of the wall where the scammer was standing. Diablo 2, I was about 11 or 12, and yes, I cried. Valuable lesson learned that day. Do not believe everything you hear on the internet. Burner said it. He told me that he needed more items for it to work, and in my panicked and crying state, I listened to him. That scammer cleaned house on me. Well played. I got pulled into NMW Meeting. When I was in college, I was working as a waiter at a Pizza Hut, and a customer came in and struck up a conversation. Eventually he pitched me on a possible new job. He described it as kind of like an internship. The first red flag should have been he wouldn't give me any specifics other than something about running a business. Next he gave me a date/address of where to meet, and he told me to dress in a suit. That also seemed weird since we were meeting at 7 PM. Who interviews at 7 PM? Anyway, I get there, and about 100 other people are there. I was getting a weird vibe and I should have run at that point, but I was desperate for something other than waiting tables. After an hour of parading different motivational speakers, they finally announced they sold Amway to achieve their goals. I then went home, older, wise, and destined to serve pizza for many more months. Working as a gas station cashier, a guy asked for 5 $20 lottery tickets, so I put them on the counter with the rest of his items. I asked if he had a loyalty card, and he said he left it in his car and went to get it. He never came back, tickets were gone. Whoops. Edit, according to you folk, there would be a way for other cashiers to tell they were stolen if he tries to cash any, so that's a plus. Or a way to flat out cancel the ticket. I don't know what my boss did, but good to know. I played RuneScape when I was like 14 with this kid named Sparky every single day. He was my good friend, and I trusted him. We chat and cut logs all the time. He asked to wear my party hat, before lending was a thing. It was a green party hat worth around 20 million gold at the time, after knowing him for like 2 years. He logged off and I never saw him again. Green party hat gone. I was sad more that I lost my friend over a dumb in-game item. Habbo Hotel 15 plus years ago. Through giveaways and smart trading, 11 or 12-year-old me had accumulated several pieces of furniture. Some guy told me he could double my furniture if I gave him my password. Being an idiot kid in a less internet savvy time, I gave him my info. He took all my stuff and told me I was a retard. I was utterly crushed that I fell for it. I felt like a complete idiot for days afterwards. Obviously not a big scam or anything, but little kid me learned a big lesson about learning to apply doubt to weird claims, or too good to be true promises. Got a call saying there was something wrong with my internet service. I downloaded the spyware that allowed the person on the phone to remotely control my computer. I became too suspicious when they wanted me to log into my bank account. Reset that bitch to factory settings and felt shame I'd let it get that far.